the moment you realize you've changed. Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized you don't quite recognize the person staring back? Not in a bad way, just different. The music you used to love doesn't hit the same. The people who once felt like home now drain you. The dreams you chased so fiercely no longer light you up. And for the first time, you wonder, what happened to me? The truth is, nothing went wrong. You're just evolving. You've outgrown an old version of yourself. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that this moment, the quiet shedding of who you once were, is one of the most important turning points in a human life. He called it individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of roles, fears, and expectations. Outgrowing your old self doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it feels like loneliness, confusion, or loss. But it's not destruction, it's transformation. In this video, we'll explore the signs that you've outgrown your old self, using Jung's powerful ideas to understand what's really happening when you begin to change from the inside out. 1. The persona, when the mask starts to crack. We all wear masks. Jung called this mask the persona, the face we present to the world. It's how we navigate society, the professional, the friend, the child, the achiever, the peacemaker. For a while, the persona serves us well, it helps us belong. But at some point, we start to feel its weight. You might notice that you laugh at things you don't find funny anymore. You go along with plans that no longer bring you joy. You keep showing up as a version of yourself that feels rehearsed. That's the first sign of growth, discomfort with your own performance. When the persona begins to feel fake, it's not because you've failed at playing your part, it's because your true self is ready to take the stage. Jung saw this as the psyche's natural progression, the ego realizing it can't live forever behind a mask. The moment you begin to question who am I when I stop trying to please, is the moment your transformation starts. Outgrowing your old persona often feels disorienting. People may tell you, you've changed. And you have. But the deeper truth is that you're not changing into someone else, you're returning to yourself. The mask is just slipping off. 2. The shadow, facing what you've repressed. Jung taught that every person has a shadow, the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or fear. It's not evil, it's just unseen. The anger you suppress to stay nice. The desires you silence to appear good. The parts of you you've buried because they didn't fit the image you wanted to project. When you begin to outgrow your old self, the shadow doesn't disappear, it steps forward. You might find yourself triggered by things that never used to bother you, or dreaming of strange, symbolic scenarios that stir up uncomfortable emotions. That's not regression, it's revelation. Jung believed that meeting the shadow is one of the most crucial steps toward wholeness. You cannot become your fullest self while pretending half of you doesn't exist. Growth means learning to sit with your own contradictions. It's realizing that light doesn't destroy darkness, it illuminates it. The moment you can say, yes, this too is part of me, you reclaim power. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's your guide to depth, authenticity, and compassion. 3. The quiet pull toward solitude. Another sign you've outgrown your old self is a growing comfort with solitude. What once felt like loneliness now feels like peace. You start to crave space, not to escape others, but to hear yourself again. Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, and that privilege often begins in silence. Solitude is where the noise of the persona fades. It's where your intuition grows louder. In stillness, the unconscious, that vast, unseen reservoir Jung devoted his life to understanding, begins to speak. At first, it might whisper through boredom or restlessness. But if you listen long enough, it starts guiding you toward new desires, new directions, new truths. People might not understand your withdrawal. They'll ask why you've become distant, why you don't go out as much. But solitude isn't isolation. It's integration. It's the cocoon between who you were and who you're becoming. 4. The loss of interest in validation. When you're aligned with your old self, external validation feels like oxygen. You chase likes, praise, achievements, little bursts of reassurance that say you're enough. But when you start outgrowing that version of yourself, those same rewards lose their shine. Compliments don't hit like they used to. Approval feels hollow. This can feel strange at first, even depressing. You might wonder if you're becoming numb. But Jung would say you're not losing feeling, you're shifting your center of gravity. You're moving from the ego, the surface level I, to the self, the deeper, wiser core of who you are. The self doesn't crave applause, it craves authenticity. That's why growth often feels like detachment. You're no longer chasing external confirmation because you're learning to trust your internal compass. What others think of you begins to matter less, not out of arrogance, but from peace. 5. The call toward meaning and purpose. One of the most powerful signs that you've outgrown your old self is the hunger for meaning. The routines that once satisfied you begin to feel shallow. You start asking deeper questions. What do I actually care about? Why am I here? Jung believed that this longing marks the beginning of individuation, the call from the self asking you to align your life with your deeper truth. For some, it means changing careers or relationships. For others, it's an inward shift, a reorientation toward what feels spiritually alive. Either way, you begin to trade comfort for authenticity, certainty for depth. At this stage, people often experience what Jung called the midlife crisis. But it's not really a crisis, it's a rebirth. The life you built for survival begins to fall apart, so that a life built for meaning can take its place. 6. The breakdown before the breakthrough. Transformation isn't tidy. Jung warned that before integration comes disintegration. When you shed an old self, you might feel lost, anxious, or uncertain. Old goals fall apart. Relationships shift. You might even question your sanity. But Jung taught that the psyche dismantles what's false before it can rebuild what's true. This breakdown is sacred. It's the symbolic death that makes rebirth possible. You're not falling apart, you're falling open. Every ending in your outer world, a job, a friendship, a belief, mirrors an inner ending. And on the other side of that collapse, something truer begins to take shape. The key is to trust the process, even when it feels chaotic. Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Pain, in this context, is not punishment, it's purification. It's the fire that burns away illusion. 7. Integration, the rebirth of the true self. Eventually, the storm settles. And what remains is clarity, not the clarity of having all the answers, but the clarity of knowing yourself. You begin to integrate the parts you once rejected, the shadow, the inner child, the forgotten dreams. Jung called this state the self, the full, balanced expression of who you are. This stage feels different. You're less reactive, more centered. You speak more truthfully, love more deeply, and fear less. Life no longer feels like a performance, it feels like participation. You start to move in harmony with your own rhythm, not society's. Outgrowing your old self doesn't mean you become perfect, it means you become whole. You stop trying to eliminate your flaws and start understanding them. You stop striving to be impressive and start striving to be real. 8. Living authentically in a world that rewards masks. The hardest part about transformation isn't the inner work, it's living authentically in a world that still values the mask. Society rewards the persona, the polished, consistent image. But authenticity is unpredictable. It changes, evolves, grows. As you live from your new self, you may lose some people. You may outgrow certain environments. But you'll also attract those who meet you at your frequency of truth. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That privilege also carries responsibility to show up as that person, even when it's inconvenient. True growth means choosing integrity over image, alignment over approval, peace over performance. Conclusion: you are not falling apart, you're becoming whole. If you're watching this and everything in your life feels unfamiliar, your interests, your values, even your reflection, take a breath. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just growing. Outgrowing your old self is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. Jung showed us that every death of identity is a birth of authenticity. The moment you stop clinging to who you were, you create space for who you were always meant to be. So don't rush it. Don't resist it. Let the old self dissolve. Because what's waiting beneath the ashes isn't emptiness, it's you.